Welcome to Rugby, North Dakota, a town shaped by the steel rails of the railroad, the vision of local leaders, and the spirit of its diverse communities. Founded in the late 1800s as a railroad junction, Rugby grew from a simple stop on the tracks into a vibrant town rooted in hard work, faith, and education. Today, we'll explore how the railroad, government, economy, churches, and schools all played vital roles in building the Rugby we know today, a community where history and progress continue to meet on the Northern Plains.
The railroad was crucial in putting rugby on the map. It has a long history in rugby's success and is still important today. Between 1872 and 1910, steel rails began to carve their way across the sweeping prairies of what would become North Dakota. The railroad was a vital part of the founding of rugby. The arrival of the railroad transformed the state's small towns from scattered settlements to thriving communities. A reading from the Northern Pacific Railway Report of 1883 states, "Wherever the track extends, towns thrive as by magic, grain elevators, depots, and homes appearing where yesterday there was only grassland." The Northern Pacific Railway reached Fargo in 1872 and continued westward, reaching Bismarck by 1873 and Dickinson by 1880. Later, the Great Northern Railway, completed through the northern part of the state in 1893, connected even more communities such as Rugby. The railroads didn't just move goods, they moved people. Immigrants from Scandinavia and Germany traveled westward, lured by advertisements from the railroad companies promising fertile land and opportunity. Towns such as Jamestown, Minot, Devils Lake, and Rugby grew up along the tracks, each centered around its depot. The railway reached Rugby in June of 1886. It was built by hand. By the early 1900s, North Dakota had become one of the nation's leading wheat producers, a success made possible by the railroads. Local businesses flourished, grain elevators, stores, and banks appeared to serve the growing populations. The farmers near Rugby were able to progress with the railroad and the grain elevators, along with local businesses as well. Farm equipment and many more goods were shipped to this town years ago, but most are shipped by trucks now. Millions of bushels get hauled out of Rugby elevator. From 1872 to 1910, the railroad connected the small towns of North Dakota, turning isolation into connection and prairies into communities. The steel tracks didn't just carry freight, they carried the promise of a new life on the northern plains. The railroad brought trade and people to Rugby, but without a government, Rugby would never succeed.
What transforms a railroad stop into a real town? For Rugby, North Dakota, the answer was simple: the creation of a local government. Rugby was founded in 1886 when the Great Northern Railway established a junction in northern North Dakota. The railway brought workers, farmers, and business owners to the area, and as the town grew, it needed leadership and structure. Roads needed to be built, laws needed to be made, and services needed to be managed. On July 13, 1905, Rugby was officially incorporated as a city. This marked the start of its mayor council form of government, giving residents the ability to elect leaders and make decisions at the local level. From that point on, the government played a key role in managing public services, infrastructure, and economic development. One important figure from Rugby's history was Eric S. Dale, elected mayor in 1912. Running as a member of the Socialist Party, Dale promoted municipal ownership of utilities like water and electricity. During his time in the office, the city invested in public infrastructure, including $10,000 worth of sidewalks and street repairs. His leadership reflected on how local government could directly improve people's everyday lives. While Rugby's basic government structure hasn't changed much, its responsibilities have grown, from maintaining infrastructure to promoting Rugby's identity as a geographic center of North America. Rugby's government was built because of the railroad, but it endured because of a strong local leadership, through elections, community priorities, and public service. Rugby grew from a railroad junction into a lasting self-governed community. As Rugby's local government began to take shape, it laid the foundation for more than just laws and leadership. It also created the structure needed for economic growth. With roads being built, services managed, and infrastructure improved, businesses began to thrive. But Rugby's economy wasn't only built through policy. It was powered by the people, their memories, and their dreams for the future. From booming grain elevators to hopeful return of future stores, the story of Rugby's economy is deeply personal to its residents, and it all ties back to the same force that started it all, the railroad.
Have you ever thought about the return of Pizza Hut or the incoming of Walmart? Well, if you have, then you are not alone. But if you haven't, then just think about the pros of these two places in our town. Lifetime resident and former economic worker Linda Schneider is very into the idea of a return of Pizza Hut and the importing of Walmart. Linda claims going to Pizza Hut after a softball game or tournament, or just after a long day in general, were some of her best memories of living in Rugby. Linda also claims, and I quote, "Years ago, I remembered when Rugby had a golden opportunity to get a Walmart, but that idea was shut down by City Council and a few other boards, and in return, Botno got it instead of us." Another store Linda said that would be a great addition to our tiny town, but is very far-fetched, would be a Lululemon. Linda says, if we added a Lululemon, quote-unquote, the kids would go berserk. Now, this store coming into Rugby is almost impossible, but with the addition of more stores and more restaurants, that will in return bring more people to our town, which could just maybe result with an implementation of Lululemon. Linda also believes that Rugby's selection of stores has significantly gone downhill since she was a child. She wants to bring a bigger selection of stores and restaurants back to our great town, and in return thinks the economy will very well benefit from the addition of new stores and restaurants. Linda reminisces of stores such as J.C. Penney, Ben Franklin, C.J. Hardware, and even Myrie's Fashion. Linda says Myrie's Fashion had a great selection of jeans, and she even remembered saving up all her babysitting money in the summer to buy a pair. She also claims Myrie's Fashion had designer clothes, shoes, and even prom dresses. If we want any chance of more stores in Rugby, we do need more workers though. Linda claims not being able to get a job when she was a kid, but now it seems like every store is hiring. Something that allowed Rugby's young economy to boom was the railroad. The young railroad always allowed Rugby's grain elevator to absolutely boom, which in return brought more money and people to our town. The railroad was able to ship houses and combines, which brought a lot more agriculture-related things to our town, which then brought more people to work.
A good economy brought many people to Rugby, especially Germans from Russia. As these new communities formed, churches quickly became central to preserving their faith, culture, and sense of belonging. According to a Little Flower Catholic parishioner, the first Catholic parish in Rugby was established as St. Cyrena's Parish in 1910. Without a church building, early services were held in homes or rented spaces. Led by Father Joseph Kern, the parish quickly grew, reflecting the strong Catholic roots of the immigrant community. As Rugby expanded with the railroad, the Catholic population grew and the need for a larger church became clear. In 1928, a new brick church was built and renamed St. Therese the Little Flower, honoring the recently canonized St. Therese of Lisieux. The church became a symbol of stability and faith for local Catholic families. While Little Flower Catholic Church was growing, other churches, like First Lutheran, were also being established. This diverse religious landscape encouraged Little Flower to strengthen its presence not only as a spiritual center, but as a contributor to community life. In 1942, the church opened a Catholic school, providing education and reinforcing its role in the town. Over the years, it remained a hub for worship, community events, and social support. In the early days, Little Flower was essential, serving as both a religious and community center when few other institutions existed. Today, while other organizations also play key roles, the church continues to be an important part of Rugby's identity, especially through its school and faith-based programs. More than a century later, Little Flower Catholic Church stands as a lasting landmark, reflecting Rugby's roots in immigration, railroad expansion, and the power of faith in a building community. In Rugby, North Dakota, early churches like Little Flower Catholic Church were instrumental in founding schools such as Little Flower Catholic Elementary School that offered education rooted in faith and the cultural heritage of immigrant families. These schools help preserve the community's traditions while providing vital academic opportunities for local children. The church was instrumental in the development of education by founding schools, preserving knowledge through the copying of texts, and promoting literacy for religious and moral purposes. Did you know that Rugby, North Dakota had its first school way back in 1887? That's just one example of how education has played a role in the growth of the town and surrounding Pierce County. While Rugby is best known today as the geographic center of North America, its educational roots run just as deep. Fred Coleman, author of Pierce County, North Dakota Genealogy and History, says, "There were no schools in Pierce County the first few years of pioneer life, but the first settlers who came to the county were typical representatives of people who had made more progress in education than any other in the world. The settlers did not long neglect the education of their children. Already before Pierce County was organized, the pioneers commenced to discuss the problem of education. Almost before Rugby became a village, its inhabitants provided for the establishment of a private school by assessing themselves a small amount each month so that a teacher could be hired and school begun. That first school, built in 1887, marked the beginning of formal education in Rugby. At the time, the area was still being settled and families were beginning to put down roots. As more people arrived, small rural schools began popping up across Pierce County. Many of these were simple, one-room schoolhouses that served not just as classrooms but also as community gathering places. Students of all ages were often taught together, and teachers sometimes lived with local families. But over time, as transportation improved and populations shifted, many of these smaller schools were closed or consolidated into larger school districts. The arrival of the railroad in Rugby played a major role in this educational growth. As the Great Northern Railway expanded westward, Rugby became a central hub. With more people coming in on the trains, the town needed more schools, more teachers, and more resources. The railroad brought not just settlers and goods, but the foundation for a stronger, more connected community. It allowed Rugby to grow into a central town where students from outlying farms could eventually attend school. So, while many of the old school buildings are gone, their impact hasn't been forgotten. The early efforts to build schools helped shape Rugby into what it is today, a place where community and education go hand in hand. Today, there are 3 schools in Rugby, North Dakota that are in use. These are Rugby High School, Ely Elementary School, and Little Flower School.
All of these elements are crucial for developing the amazing town we live in today. From steel rails to school bells, the story of Rugby, North Dakota is one of transformation, resilience, and community. What began as a simple railroad stop in the late 1800s grew into a thriving town thanks to the power of connection, both physical and social. The railroad brought settlers, goods, and opportunity, laying the foundation for a growing economy, structured government, vibrant churches, and lasting educational institutions. People like Eric Dale and Linda Schneider remind us that strong leadership and community spirit continue to shape Rugby's future. Whether it's preserving faith through Little Flower Church, promoting education in local schools, or dreaming of new businesses on Main Street, the heartbeat of Rugby remains its people. And just like the trains that first brought life to the plains, their vision continues to move Rugby forward.